So the usual glitch. I was on mute and trying to greet you, but I'm sure you read my lips. So thank you once again for being on your show, Manage Better. I'm your host, Anshuman Tiwari, and those who are new to the show will want to know that I try and bring coaches, consultants, and very interesting speakers who can bring us some more meaning to the concept of manage better. As you can see on the screen, my show is called Manage Better. And in general, my thinking around most of this is that we can get better from wherever we are. So, whatever we do, wherever we are, we can always get better. And on the same lines, today I am bringing to you a very interesting concept, particularly in the last 2 3 years, which of course I don't want to remind all of us is because of the pandemic and other stuff. But many of us have had increased level of stress. Many of us had, not just physical stress because of work from home, sitting at the same place, and so on, but also mental stress. And a lot of us also have had situations where we've lost friends or people have been in the family and friends have been unwell, so the mental stress and related aspects are also there. To top it all, the work related stress has not really gone down, it has actually increased. Some of us may have had job disruptions as well, so the that kind of stress actually has further gone up, right? So all that has added up, and we are now at a very elevated state of stress. Right. So, what do we do around this? Of course, many things, but one of the things is, of course, some kind of a physical activity like movement therapy, yoga, and so on. And I wanted to explore that space and have brought two eminent speakers on this space, both experts in these areas. And in a moment, I will bring them onto the stream. But before that, my name is Anshman, and this is your channel Manage Better. And those of you who have not yet subscribed to the channel on YouTube or follow me on LinkedIn, please do so now. And if you are live on LinkedIn, let me know where you are joining from so that I also get to know that you are live, and also the fact that the live stream is working. Right? Though I can see that it is working. So fantastic. And of course, like I said, those who are new to the whole this show, recordings are usually available on the same page that you are visiting it at, so that should not be a problem. Now, so that is now time to bring my first guest, Shikha Pandey, and I'll bring her in the stream in a minute. But first, a quick introduction. Started her career in PR and brand management, and was and worked with companies like HUL and Airtel, and then had her first venture in a co-working space in Mumbai. Later on, started another venture called Beck Friends, which is a same-day delivery platform in Mumbai. Later on, became a website by the same name, which is trying to bring, you know, requirements in the logistics, travel, and that kind of space. A very unique concept, right? But that's not the reason why she's here. Shika is here today to talk about her yoga journey and how living a holistic life and through yoga and with yoga has given much more to her than all other entrepreneurial work that she does. A very interesting person. I will quickly bring Shika to the work stream.
Hello.
Hi, Shika.
Namaste, everybody. Good morning on a beautiful Saturday morning. We're here. And thank you so much, Anshuman, for having me on this platform and such a beautiful introduction and taking time with it. I truly appreciate it. So, everybody who is here, I come in the capacity of someone who practices and talks about holistic living. I live the yogic life, or I try my best to live the yogic life. It's always a journey. And this is a topic which is very, very close to my heart. The reason why Anshuman and I and Maya, who's going to join in shortly, we came in together because we are part of the LinkedIn Accelerator, Creator Accelerator program. Every time I say it, it sounds like a tongue twister. I realize it every time. I need to get better with that. Yeah, so we are here because we are here to talk about things that drive us in our daily lives, that gives us a sense of purpose. And so I will be talking about holistic living, and my introduction has already been shared by Anshuman. I'm an entrepreneur. I live the yogic life. I'm also a podcaster, and I'm here today to talk to you and to answer your questions if you have any.
Thank you, Shika, for adding to this. And yes, of course, being part of the Creator Accelerator program, um, if for if nothing else, it has brought a lot of diverse people together, and
Yeah,
we might not have met uh,
otherwise.
maybe otherwise, but this Creator program helps us do that. And that, of course, reminds me once again that, and thank you so much. So many people have started commenting on LinkedIn, so thank you very much for joining. But the fact that all my guests today are also part of the creator program, both of them, and in a minute, Maya as well, do take time to check out their profiles and follow them for the wonderful content that they prepare. If you like their content, of course, there are other, uh, platforms also where they share content, which you can uh, go to. With that, time for the next guest. Uh, I will bring on now Maya. So welcome, Maya. And Maya is another extremely interesting person in this, and I take some time to bring people who can add add to the interesting component, because I am the boring one already, right? So the other spectrum should be populated. So Maya is an engineer, a Big Four consulting firm, ex-employee. But again, like Shikha, she's not here for that. She like so there is much more to her, and she's a movement therapy certified movement therapy practitioner, and much more in that space. She will of course tell us more about it. But for most of us, you and me, dance is like having two left feet, right? Dance, movement, all this stuff. So for us, and she's here to teach us about that. Movement is not just dance, and dance is not movement alone, and there is much more to it, and how it can help along with yoga, which Shikha will talk about, help us lead a far lesser stressful life. So, Maya, I've edited your introduction on the fly to introduce you like how I know you, right? So we met earlier, and I of course know you from that, and so I've used that. But feel free to add something that I might have missed, and also any opening comments from you, and then we get into some questions.
Thanks so much, Anshuman. Thanks for bringing all of us together. And like I think we all shared earlier, that it is through the LinkedIn Content Creator Accelerator program that all of us met, and because of which, we are able to reach out to a diverse set of people, which is just so amazing. And yes, like you said, my journey pretty much started where I was probably living a very linear life. I went the engineering route, did my management grad, worked for some of the largest technology firms and big four management consulting firms. And over the course of these many years of having worked in the corporate world, I started realizing that how stress, workplace stress, and burnout was eating into my life. It came in purely from a place of my own personal experience. That was exactly the time when I chanced upon a workshop, and went on to do a movement therapy experience a movement therapy workshop, and later on decided to become a certified therapy practitioner, and how now that has become not only a part of my life but my profession as well. So I think very similar in terms of our journeys from for with Shikha and myself, how we actually made this a part of, not only a part of our professional, of our personal life, but a part of our professional life as well. So
Awesome.
thanks for having us.
No, no, totally my pleasure. As I said in the introduction, on this platform, I have tried to bring various perspectives, because nobody really knows the formula, right? We can
Yeah.
all give to each other some ingredients of the formula, and people can figure out for themselves as to what works for them. So I've had doctors, coaches, consultants, sports people, marathon coaches as well, and just trying to add more to this work life concept that we have, that it is not just about, and I'm a quality professional, so I can't say that okay, you do only quality management related work and you will be fine. That's not life.
Yeah.
There's much more to it. So with that, we will get into um, questions, and there are, of course, my lovely audience, is usually has the tough questions for later on. So, and I bribe them enough to only ask the guests the questions, so they don't ask me any questions. So don't
Smart.
worry.
Very smart.
We
Put us in
will,
the
we will
hot seat on a on a Saturday morning.
yeah, we'll get to that. Don't worry. So the the opening question, and I'll one by one ask you the same question. Maybe is of course borrowing from the introduction that I uh, had. And last last 2 3 years are probably only you can say a disruption in the stress levels, but human or stress in human beings has been increasing in the last 15 20 years. There are various studies which say that with the inclusion of more social life, with the inclusion of more technology, with these pressures of earning a better life and having much more, and our need becoming greed at some point, the biggest addition to our human being as a human is stress, and that also reflects in a large range of medical ailments that then come through. We'll not this channel is not equipped about discussing about the medical part of it, but certainly there is some part of it that we can manage, right? We can't obviously manage, but we can uh, certainly manage a. Yeah, Shika, you are back, don't worry. Right, I got distracted a little bit. There was a little bit, but no.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so my question generally, Shika, to first to you maybe
Mhm.
is that in all this stressful life, uh, we all know that yoga, of course, plays a role, but you expanded the practice of yoga into not only being a yoga trainer, teacher, practitioner, of course, but a little bit more holistic life. How do you think this actually helps, right? And I'm straight away getting into the crux of the show
Yeah.
so that our audience can quickly get some value out of your presence. So over to you.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think the sheer fact that even today we talk about ourselves as just the physical body or just the mental body or just our emotional aspect or our spiritual aspect, I think is the crux of where this all lies, the stress, because we are isolating ourselves. But as human beings, that's really not how we function. We are everything together. If there's something that's happening in the space of the mind, it's going to reflect in your body. The body stores things. Similarly, if there's an emotional upheaval that you're going through, it will reflect on the state of your mind and your body as well, and also on your entire sense of identity as such. And during the pandemic, the one thing that happened and the reason why everything happened is because of uncertainty. We were not sure anymore what's going to happen. And we as human beings don't like uncertainty. We don't like the fear of the unknown. That's our biggest fear. And that's in yoga, it's known as abhinivesh, which is basically the fear of death or the fear of losing, not living your life, which is what happened to us. We lost people that we cared about. We were not sure how this is going to impact us. We were shut inside the homes. And so everything cropped up from the fear of uncertainty. Now, in yoga, what the crux of yoga is to bring awareness to where you are rather and to what is rather than how you assume things to be. Now, in this moment right now, of course, the world has changed, it's become better. But when you pay attention to the moment which is right now, things are fine. You're able to handle what is on your plate. Things become stressful when we start to visualize the future, when we start to fret over the future, when we start to become uncertain and we let that anxiety creep into ourselves. So, holistic living or holistic yoga, so as to say, is all about becoming aware of yourself as a person, as a unit together, as a multi-dimensional human being, because that's exactly what we are. So throughout this time, and I started sort of talking about it, holistic living, right at the beginning of the pandemic, because I realized that people were suffering, and the suffering was coming from the uncertainty that we were going through. And the fact of the human life is that we cannot change things outside of us. The only thing, and only if we can look inward and change things within us on how we operate in our day-to-day life, I think that is the key to being more present, and that is the key to dealing with any kind of situation, because the pandemic nobody could control. It was beyond ourselves, and we got scared because we didn't want things to be uncertain. And so a physical movement, of course, helps to dissolve the stress that we accumulate in the body, but that alone would not be enough, because we need to take care of our mental being. We need to nourish that bit of our self. We need to nourish what is called as our emotional being as well. And that is what the pandemic called for. And that is what any situation in life calls for. We don't really need a pandemic to get stressed about. We as human beings can get stressed about just about anything. And that's as simple as that. And awareness is the key, and that's what I really talk about, and I think we'll discuss it further as well. For example, we were sitting here and I could be thinking about, oh, how many likes is this going to get, what questions are going to come, like Anshuman said, the tougher question, that my mind could be reeling in that and I could get stressed about it, or I could focus on what I'm doing right now and do it to the best of my ability. And if I'm able to do that, I'm already answering all your questions and I'm already prepared and I've already given you a gist of what I have to give. I don't need to be perfect in everything that I do. I need to be doing it to the best of my ability. And that is all that is to life. And that's what I talk about. That's what I try to live. And that's what I want to be. And I think if I have been able to put it together in the simplest of the ways.
Yeah, you have, I think that's where we wanted to start with the concept that why even do this, right? So there is so much around why do should we even think of this. So yeah, so that reminds me, quite a few people again joining in. So guys, keep your comments coming in. That keeps us interested. And occasionally, if you have a question, like I said, tough question, then leave it to us. If you have a question specific to a speaker, feel free to tag them or let put their name in so that I can ask that question specifically. Uh, so moving to Maya, and pretty much the same question, Maya. So your area of specialization is movement, and I keep saying it dance, but that's the uneducated mind coming through, right? So firstly, correct that for us, and then the same question that the last few years, and I'm not referring to the pandemic alone. Like Shikha said, this has been going on for many years, and each year we think that the next year stress will be lower, but it's actually multiplying. And there's so much to, from simple things like my coffee wasn't hot enough today, to salary delayed by 2 days. These are two different things at two different ends of the spectrum, but they induce pretty much. And I've been doing some reading around stress and the chemical components of stress and mindfulness and all. Actually, the chemicals related to stress, fear, and even joy and love are pretty much the same. So there
Absolutely.
are there are other things involved, and movement therapy is one of the emerging fields, which we are fortunate to have a certified practitioner there. So, what would you say? How does movement therapy help in all of this?
Right. So, like you mentioned, Anshuman, stress isn't something that is new to us. It's just about the fact that probably in the last, 2.5 years of the pandemic situation, that because of the blurring lines of the physical separation of work and life, this kind of became very much a mainstream, a theme running across everyone, because of again the physical blurring of the lines, and the fact that people had started seeing the social isolation, how much of the social isolation were therefore playing in our minds, and how that was also impacting the way we were relating to our bodies. Because when we are in a very limited physical space, because now that we were in a quarantine situation, perhaps we were in a particular room. Perhaps for many people, if you actually have experienced the pandemic, if you actually had the COVID virus, you're probably stuck up in a room or in a space for many days. Or if you have had living in a containment zone, then this would also be a truth that many of us had faced. And how much of our emotions get stuck because of the inability to move, because we were not moving. What is energy? What is emotion? Emotion is energy in motion, right? So when we are not really moving about, then our emotions also get stuck up somewhere, and that thereafter manifests in the form of a dis-ease in the body. Dis-ease, the word dis-ease itself is when you are not at ease, and therefore dis-ease. So when we are not at ease with ourselves, with our bodies, and with our emotions, that is when it may actually have a chance of becoming or manifesting as a disease, as an illness in the physical realm of the body. And therefore, how can a therapeutic intervention, let's say like a movement therapy, can come into play? Now movement, as you would probably, I mean, all of us probably already know that movement is the first language that we as human beings learn. When a child is born, the first thing that a doctor notices is the child moving. Even before they learn the language of speech, movement is the first language that we all learn. So therefore movement is very integral to our lives. Movement is medicine. And if you go back to looking at the four different pillars of holistic health, since we're talking about holistic health and managing stress, so I thought it's important for us to bring it about. The four pillars of holistic health actually talks about nutrition, movement, sleep or rest, and the fourth being connection. Now, if you look at it, these all components together actually make what we call holistic living and holistic well-being. So therefore, if we go back to reviewing how our life was pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, you can clearly see the difference in terms of how we were relating to people, the connection part of it. So when we're talking about the connection part of it, the disassociation of the connection part of it, because again we were working in remote workspaces, many people in the last 2.5 years actually got onboarded remotely, and they never even got a chance to meet their team members. And then since I do work a lot with organizations and teams, and therefore I have seen this question coming up quite often, where the HR managers or the senior leaders have this as one of the problems, where they talk about how are we able to build that place of psychological safety and trust when people have not even seen their team members. These are some of the realms in which a therapeutic intervention like movement therapy can actually help in connecting better with, not only with yourself, but with others as well. Because when we connect deeply within ourselves, within our bodies, within our emotions, we can also connect deeply with other people, with the world at large. I hope that kind of answers some part of this question, Anshuman.
Oh, no, no, this is neither a question nor does it need an answer. This is more, we are all exploring the same space. And, I wanted to bring both of you because you are in spaces where normally all of us are not there, right? So I'm not saying this is an abnormal space. So I am only saying that a large majority of people will not explore this space unless they are shown the path, or, that's my job in this moderated session that I'm doing. The knowledge comes from both of you, so which I'm grateful for. Moving on to slightly more, I would say, more specific question, Shikha, to you. And I did want to make this session a little bit more also for the people of, how. Like normally, I do my sessions around why and what. Right? Why are we doing this is important, which is what we covered in the first part. Then I usually come to what. The what part is clear for you. You are in the space of holistic living, yoga, and of course you are an entrepreneur, so you do other stuff. But today's focus is this, and my space is movement, and so that part is clear. So I want to get into a little bit for a change into the how part. So as I was preparing, I did reach out to some people who are regulars on my show as to what would you like to ask. And in general, the few responses that I had were concentrated around, oh, I have these calls all day, and this is my story as well, right? So although I found my way of walking around the house and not sitting at my desk for a long time, but the summarized question from all of the people who wrote back was that I don't have time for yoga. I have calls from 7 to night, and I have other stuff going on, and I just don't have time for yoga or anything else, right? So if I had to fall ill, I will have to take an appointment. So that kind of a, Winston Churchill kind of a statement people have, where the famous story that he said that I don't have time to
Follow. Yeah, yeah.
fall in because there is no space in my calendar or schedule for the next 2 weeks. So same story for everyone, all of us, me included, right? So my question, therefore, or the area I want you to respond to is that how can people like us, me and many others who don't find time at all, we are in one call after another call and we are pretending to be busy and useful, and in many calls actually we hardly get any time to speak also, but we still like to call ourselves as busy and useful, and that pretense is going on. So I can't solve the pretense part because that's a corporate life that I leave to other people to handle. So that's the point. How would you, and Maya, I will come to you for some specifics that how can people use that later. So over to you, Shikha.
Okay. So I'll tell you how, and then I'll ask you a very interesting question at the end of it, which I always ask everyone. So my turn to ask the question, not to you, to everyone who's listening as well, and you know where this question will come from. So there's a lot that you can do. And first, like I said, yoga is known for the physical movement. So you've seen those complicated postures that happen on Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere else, and you see people and you think, oh, that is yoga. Let me just quickly bring this to everybody's notice, and I have no problem with it being showcased the way it is. It gets people to do it. That's really the objective of it. But yoga is so much more than just what you do with your physical body. And if today you sit here and you do something, without awareness in your body, without bringing in your sense of focus to what you're doing, you still won't be doing yoga, even if you're in a headstand or a handstand. Yoga is all about bringing awareness. If you sit down today in your desk between your calls, you stretch your spine upward, sideward, forward, and backward with complete awareness of how do you feel, you are doing yoga. It is as simple as that. You twist your neck from side to side in between calls. That is yoga with awareness. That you're aware this is what the movement is causing me. This is how it is enabling my shoulders to relax. This is how it is giving me the break in between my calls. That is yoga. Anshuman said that you started taking calls walking. That is yoga, becoming aware that my body needs this. It's that sense of inherent awareness. You come in between a call, you have a space of about 5 minutes, you sit down, close your eyes, just take a moment, set your intention for moving into the call. Why am I going into this call? A lot of time, yes, calls are one way dialogues and someone's talking and you're listening. But if you are investing your time, would you not rather get something out of it than just sit through it? And it could be anything. If you're attending that call, there has to be some reason why you're there. It won't just be something out of the blue. So can you at least try to take out one thing from that that will bring your focus into what is happening, that will enable your mind not to wander away and think about, oh, I should have been doing this instead. And that creates a sense of stress in your body, that creates a sense of wanting to be somewhere where you're not there and where you cannot be because you're meant to be here right now. Similarly, in your emotional space, are you taking time to maybe take 5 minutes out at the end of the day to simply reflect on your day and say that this is what I've done today? And that brings in a huge sense of accomplishment and feel good inside of you. You see that you're doing something purposeful. It also gives you a chance to, in a non judgmental way, take stock of things and maybe look at the next day a little differently. So, all of this is yoga. So, inherently, yoga is becoming aware about yourself, aware about when you need to take that break because nobody can tell you, aware about when I need to cut back and say no to something because my body, my mind wants that. And so my question now to you, everyone who's listening, is would you simply do it because I'm telling you to do that, or would you do it when it comes from inside? And for it to come from inside, the one thing that you need to cultivate is awareness, because the world might shout from the top of a mountain telling you to do this, but unless you make it a priority, it is not going to happen. It's not like I'm telling you something out of the world. You know it. This is important. That's why we're having the discussion. Bring that awareness into yourself. If you don't have time to take a break or take a sick leave, then you will have to do this, because that's the only way in which you don't take a sick leave, by becoming aware. There is something called as prevention and there is something called as cure. Prevention will help you thrive in life, and cure will only help you to survive. And that's the choice that only you get to make. Anybody might say it from outside to you. You will do this only when it comes from within, by becoming aware and making it a priority for yourself. And I think it's as simple as that, really.
No, totally mesmerizing. And I think Vivek says something that probably summarizes what you were trying to
Yeah.
convey as well. He said this before you said, so there is no there's no connection there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think absolutely. We are a sum total of the choices that we make in our life. It's as simple as that. And we all have. We can't blame anyone. We cannot give the onus of our success to anyone, and it is yours to have this way or that way. Yeah.
yeah, and since you asked a question, I'll try and respond as well. May- the my and specifically in the last 2 3 years, and this is again not just limited to the pandemic part. I did realize, of course, I have been generally a fit person in the last 10 years, but last 2 3 years I lost some of that fitness, and it started to feel odd, strangely enough, because we were not going to office, we were not wearing the clothes that would have told us every day, right? So and because the clothes were not screaming that, boss, this is this is cruelty, we did not realize, and many of us did not realize, and at least I didn't. And there was one point in time that even the clothes that would otherwise fit started screaming. So that is one reason, which is I'm sure many people can relate to, to varying degrees. The other was that I did notice that I was losing my calm and composure in calls very often, and I'm not known as a person who will lose it in during work calls. My family may think otherwise, but I certainly at work have a reputation to keep, and I started noticing. Thankfully, nobody came back to me with feedback, but I noticed myself that I have lost my calm 3 4 times this month itself, which is huge aberration. It's like a complete Richter scale 10 earthquake for me. I'm not known for this. So that was a huge alarm for me, and I started then investing in more calm and peace. Increase my walk. Walking around the house, like I said, taking mini breaks between calls, even doing stretching, and as if magically, I'm not saying that it has gone down to the earlier state, but it has helped quite a bit. So like you said, yoga is what you do mindfully, and you are focused on it, and you're actually sensing the movement.
Yeah.
That's all. So thanks much, Shika, and that actually brings the movement part, is a good segue to Maya's area of specialty. So yoga, I'm sure many people in the audience, and including me, we can pretend to know a little bit about it. Of course, professor is there, so she can correct us. But in general, anybody with an Indian name will have some knowledge of yoga, good, bad, right, wrong, but will have some knowledge. But this application of movement and movement therapy to work and work life, how does that happen, and what are some areas where we can then say, oh, I know about movement therapy, I want to try. So over my
All right. So, if I were to, okay, if I may ask this question, maybe to you, Anshuman, what's your understanding of movement therapy, let's say, even as a layman?
like I whenever we have spoken, I interchangeably talk about movement therapy and dance, and my fear for not being able to dance at all, having three left feet.
All right. So
So
let me kind of
that's my
got
first
it. Yeah,
reaction.
absolutely, absolutely. No, thanks for being so candid. And I mean, I think that's one of the myth I would definitely love to, debunk today, because movement therapy is not yoga and movement therapy is not dance. And why do I say so is also because in let's say a yoga a session, or even in a dance session, it is very instructional. What therefore means is there is an instructor, a facilitator, and they will tell you, move your hand right, breathe deeply right now, breathe in, breathe out. There is an instruction, and the other persons who are the participants, they follow. But in a therapeutic intervention like a movement therapy, you are the person who will do the movement or not do the movement. And there is nothing right or wrong in it. Now, how it works is we actually use a lot of music. Music is one of the elements that in any movement therapy sessions we use. So music, the usage of music here is key, because when we listen to certain kinds of sounds, certain emotions evoke within ourselves. And when we are actually listening to those sounds, how do we feel? How do we move? And let the music move you, not that Maya or any other instructor is telling you, okay, right now we will move our hand like this, or we will, go to the right or go to the left, which is perhaps a dance a session, or perhaps anything like a yoga session. But in a movement therapy workshop or a program that you may attend, you will actually be taken through a process, and the process is again a therapeutic intervention depending on the needs of the group. Now, since I do work a lot with organizations and with teams, and particularly the current scheme of things, what I have started seeing in my work area, and also in my interaction with the senior HR leaders and the senior folks within the industry, is when I asked this question, and this was in one of the leadership conferences that I was speaking at, and when I asked this question to all the attendees who were all HR pros in their own rights, what is the biggest challenge that you are facing when it comes to people in organizations? The answer that came across the board was, there is a lack of connection. There is a lack of connection which people have started feeling very much so in the last 2.5 years. And if you look at the data, and if you look at the research that is being done right now, I think just about 2 days back I actually wrote about it on LinkedIn, that being a platform for I think all of us, where we share a lot of the content that we do. I wrote about the fact that how the lack of connection is actually now playing key. Like, we are sitting on the cusp of the great resignation. Why is it that people are leaving jobs? Why is it that there is a high amount of attrition within organizations? All of this, if we actually go back and look at it, people, like they say, people do not leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses. So there is somewhere something that we have to do about it, to understand that how is it that the teams can actually work in a much more collaborative manner. How can we provide an environment of psychological safety? Now, how can a therapeutic intervention like movement therapy play any role in this kind of a situation? Again, in the kind of work that we do, it's again working with people in a collaborative approach, and the kind of activities, the activities that we do within those workshops, that gives people an authentic space to share and express, share in an absolutely non-judgmental open space, and express themselves. Like we say, in a movement workshop, there is nothing called as a good movement or a bad movement. Like Anshuman, you mentioned at the beginning, I'm perhaps a person that has 3 left feet. So if you were to go for a salsa class or for a Zumba class, you're expected to move or dance in a particular way. But in a movement workshop, you can move the way you feel. And even if you sit in a movement workshop, that is also allowed, because there is a healing aspect that happens when we just allow. We have somehow forgotten the fact that we are all human beings, not human doings. We do not have to do all the time. We can just be. And I think that is how it separates between any other therapeutic intervention or any other holistic approach when it comes to movement therapy, because movement therapy works on the 5 different levels of well-being: mental, emotional, physical, social, and spiritual. So we take all of this into account. And what to a layman might just seem, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just moving to the music. But there is so much of method in the madness. So a certified professional like me would actually design and curate the program in a manner that it actually is able to address the objective of the session. So if your objective is I want to bring in more collaborative effort within my team, or your objective could be I want my team to feel relaxed or confident. So there could be so many different objectives that we could work on using this as one of the elements. And just to give you a little bit of a background of the work that I have done in the past as well, that while in the current scenario, or in the current situation, I'm working largely with organizations, with teams and individuals. But when I was actually training myself to become a certified therapy practitioner, I also got an opportunity to work with women from human trafficking backgrounds, to work with children who were in orphanage homes, who were probably gone through sexual abuse in the past, or material abuse, and patients in mental health wards. So this actually works across spectrum of the population, whether it is high functional teams, or it is even with people with disabilities. Movement therapy works, so it cuts across the spectrum. Just wanted to share it with everyone listening in today.
No, fantastic. And I think the one phrase I caught on to, Maya, which may not have been your intention, but is that this is therapy, right? So the the first word you associate with movement and dance, and that's why people like me try and probably relate each other, is because for me dance is entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
right? So therefore I have other forms of entertainment. I don't need dance, So it's not everybody needs some entertainment of some kind, right? So, but if it is therapy, the connotations are completely different because you can do it as an individual, as a
So
group.
can I just, yeah, okay, no, let me hear your question, because I had something just on my lips and I wanted to share that, but please go on, and then maybe I'll come in.
No, so this is not so much a question, but I was responding to how what I understood from your 2 3 minutes of input,
Sure.
and
So,
the top
so
of the
I would
mind.
just, yeah. So just to again, because I'm guessing that a lot of people still do have this as a doubt, let's say, and I want to just use this platform to kind of clear the doubt for many people listening or watching right now. Is that there is a difference between therapy and therapeutic. So
Hmm,
the work that I do primarily with organizations is in the space of therapeutic interventions. It is not therapy per se. There is a
hmm.
difference.
Okay.
Therapy is again very much, if you are if you are trained clinically to do therapy, that is when you are a therapist. I am not a therapist. I'm a certified movement therapy practitioner. It's a bit technical for somebody who doesn't understand it, but just for clarity's sake, therapy and therapeutic are different, and therapist and therapeutic practitioner are different. So there, these are again degrees and levels of separation. And again, the work that we do is just to kind of help you become much more aware within your bodies and be able to express your emotions within the framework of the body. And there is nothing right and wrong. While for some people, like you said, dance could be very much like a entertaining factor. And why is it an entertaining factor is also because when you move, you are those endorphins, you're emitting those endorphins and the dopamine hit, right? The dopamine hit is what gets you feel happier, you feel relaxed, you feel much more calm. But would you probably go to, or if I may ask this question, and let's just see if anybody in the audience wants to take this and answer, is anybody in the audience would perhaps say that they would dance or move to music when they are sad, angry, or unhappy? I want to just kind of do a social experiment here and see what the answer comes. Or what would you generally do when you are feeling sad, angry, depressed, any of these emotions which are on the negative scale, let's say?
So the
Do we have
format
any answers in the house, Anshuman?
the format is such that it takes a little bit of a lag for the LinkedIn Live to come through. So I will let you know as the answers start coming in. But
Sure.
I get your point. And what we'll do is that we have a wonderful comment from Johnny. Johnny is a coach. And Shikha, I think this comment came when you were speaking that, and I have
Amazing.
known Johnny when he had those 15 kgs. So I
Yep.
might not recognize him now, but
That's what awareness can do, right? I mean, and that's my job. My job is not to get you moving in a certain way or, preaching you in any way. My job or my purpose in my life is to make you aware that the wisest teacher in the world resides right inside of you. Nobody can tell you what is good for you. You know it already. It's just that with the way we've lived our lives, we've lost that connection. So, my purpose in life is to help you connect back to yourself in a holistic way so that you know when something's going wrong. And amazing job. And claps to you. It's so inspiring to absolutely see this. It warms my heart. And, these are the stories that need to come out there to inspire people. Our emotional being loves inspiration. When we see inspiration, we want to do it. This is what needs to be done. And please share your stories. I'm glad you did it here. I'm sure people will see it. Thank you so much.
thanks, Johnny, for sharing. Vivek has also shared something similar. Vivek
Thanks.
is a regular runner, so those who don't know him, he's we go around the roads where he stay. We
So
might
even
get
so
running.
even I'm a runner myself, Anshuman, and for me, running is therapy, is meditation for me. Even movement therapy, we also do have mindful movement therapy, which is basically again how we are becoming more aware of the way we are connecting with the body. So I think it kind of all of this works in a very similar spectrum, if not the same, but very similar spectrum. And just to share a little bit of the story, because I think Shikha was also mentioning about inspiring stories, and I think probably Anshuman, you heard this story a little of mine before as well, where my entire journey of actually embarking on movement therapy and how did it come about. So if you'll allow, I would quickly want to share this with the audience here. In back in 2014, when I was working with a big four management consulting firm, and anybody who has worked or is working in that kind of an environment, you obviously know the kind of demands it has of you. It is definitely a highly demanding job, and very highly demanding, and you want us to be up on their feet all the time, because consulting also requires a lot of moving about in terms of travel, etc. And then how do we maintain our balance in terms of our work and life? That becomes critical and very important. And I think for me, somewhere in 2014, it just so happened that I wasn't able to maintain that balance. I was totally out of harmony, and I found myself paralyzed on bed for 2+ months. It was so bad that I could not even lift my right hand. I could not even hold a spoon to eat my food. It was extremely painful. And being on bed and just watching the ceiling for 2+ months for somebody who's so active, it was an excruciatingly painful experience at a time when I was leading a project which in the industry was getting awarded, and somebody else had to go on the stage to pick up the award for me. And therefore I think that was that point in time when I really questioned myself, like, what am I doing and what is it that I'm really running after. Because at this point in time I realized how much I had sacrificed my own personal well-being for the sake of a job, for the sake of a job title perhaps. And therefore there was this entire shift in perspective to a larger degree. And just to kind of cut this story short, somewhere I think that was the turning point in my life. And like they say, whenever the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I think right at that point in time, it was perhaps by miracle that I saw this ad in a newspaper on a Friday evening about a movement therapy workshop. And I just went and I attended it for 2 hours. And when I attended it for 2 hours, I could definitely see the shift in my perspective, in my thinking, and the way I was now relating to myself. And I got curious about it and I wanted to know more. And thankfully, this was way back in 2014. And thankfully, at that time, Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Mumbai, TISS, was just introducing and starting a course on movement therapy in India. and I happened to sign up for it, and I became the first person to actually first person to actually go in with the kind of background that I have. Because when I appeared for the interview, they were a little startled, because I come in from a hardcore engineering management grad, and having worked, and still I was working in a big four at that point in time. So they were not very sure as to how will I still continue. Somehow I convinced them. I managed to get certified, do the entire course program, go for the field work, etc. And that experience gave me an understanding of how this was actually missing in the corporate world. And therefore there has been an entire journey that happened, once I kind of got myself trained. And I think towards 2019 is when I after I came back from San Francisco, having met Sheryl Sandberg, I really decided that now is the time. I wanted to take the plunge full on, and decided to go the entrepreneurial route. And therefore, this became my full time profession, which is what I do right now, and bringing this element to more people, and creating more awareness.
Fantastic. So, I'm glad you brought this in, Maya, because obviously this is inspiring for many in the audience. And I have heard this earlier, and it always inspires me. And but I'm sure. So, those who in the audience might have had this question, that where do you do this certified practitioner, movement therapy practitioner? So, Maya has already shared Tata Institute of what social sciences, right?
Social
So,
sciences, yes, TISS.
okay, so moving on, before I come to you, Shikha, I think we have a practicing medical, professional, and he has, of course, also validated what we have been talking. So thank you very much, Dr. Rajesh.
Thank you
He's a
so much, Dr.
yeah,
Rajesh.
yeah, he's both a medical profession and very deep into quality management. So
Wonderful.
thank yeah, wonderful coming from you. The question, of course, for Shikha now is, it's not so much a question, but what I also figured out from what you both have shared is that this is not just a hobby. It is also a
Mm.
profession for both of you. From Maya, we understood that she of course works with corporates and groups where she can provide uh, her services. But with you, how is this a business for you?
Yep. Okay. So, yoga is for everybody. And we often say that if you can breathe, you can do yoga. But, it's about bringing awareness. And like I said, my purpose here, uh, and I have come to this place because that's what I intend to do. And while individuals are people that I often work with who are working in high stress jobs, who have suffered during the pandemic for whatever number of reasons, while the stress was there always before, it sort of reached a peak and realization came in. We had more time to spend with ourselves. We got a little more aware. And so I work with the people who work in high stress jobs. I work with high level CEOs who have to manage multiple roles and responsibilities and how to become more aware and connected. I also work with corporates, of course, and the way it works with corporates is human resource. The human part of the resource is one of the most critical, most important, and the most essential resource that you have. Now, with the state in which your human resource is working, is not optimal. They are compromised. And if you really want the vision of the organization to delve deeper, for everyone to move together, and in a way that they are able to give their 100% on a daily basis, we need to take care of them. And it needs to be done in a way that their entire being is taken care of. You cannot expect a person moving through mental ailments or an emotional upheaval and come to work and do their best. It's not going to be possible. So it's best that that is taken care of. So when I work with corporates, it's usually to bring in that sense of urgency into realizing that the human resource needs more than just salary hikes or a one-off session once in a while, or a online just one session saying that this is what you need to do, and as if they're going to accept it. No, there has to be a much deeper intervention, because that's what long-term plans look like. That's how you're going to mitigate it in the future when things are moving away, when people, your attrition rate is high, people are not satisfied for a reason, people are feeling stressed with the work, they're feeling a sense of imbalance. So or in that way I come in play, to really help them understand the significance of human which is taken care of, and when that becomes your resource and the most crucial resource that you have. I also work with a lot of children for early intervention in their lives to become more aware about themselves. I work with a foundation called Ra Foundation, which is taking kids from the not so privileged backgrounds and helping them to have a better life. So I bring an intervention there. So that's what I do currently. My company called Purna Yoga is becoming a holistic platform. We're moving towards there, wherein a lot of the practices, a lot of the teachings, a lot of the daily mindfulness and awareness techniques will be available on a platform very soon. So that's coming. It's going to be more accessible. So don't worry. Wherever you are, how much you may want to avoid this, I will come and I will talk to you.
And so that probably gives me reason to invite you back on the show at when the Pune
Absolutely.
Yoga
It'll
website and
always
the
be an honor to come and talk. Yes.
sure. Um, we are toward the end of the show, so I will quickly try and pick one or two questions. There are quite a few, but
So,
Ashok has been.
Anshuman, before we
Yeah.
hop on to any question, I'm curious to know, were there any responses from the audience about the question that I had thrown at them? Do we have any responses yet?
No, people have in general given responses like Johnny said, becoming still, Kalpesh, listening to music, introspect.
Hmm.
Somebody has spoken about brooding. So yeah, five or six responses generally in that space.
Sure.
Um,
So just to add, if it may just help for people who want to know. So in the movement therapeutic space, we actually do have certain kinds of movements that one can do when you are feeling low or when you are feeling angry. And these movements are tailor made so that you're able to bring out that inner emotion which is locked within the body. And
hmm,
like I think Shikha also mentioned earlier that when we are not being able to express the emotion which gets locked in our body, then it becomes repressed, which therefore can later on lead to long term effects, right? So when you're angry, there are certain movements that you can do, which actually, for the inability to move right now myself, because I think the camera will not capture it, but I would have loved to show you. And something that you can probably Google also, it is called, like, how do you do a releasing movement, which is basically like just shaking off and just shaking your body. If you can shake your body and just say, there's a word called ja is basically, which means go. So you can just scream and you just shake your body and just move your head and do, just really scream if you have to. But just let that emotion out. If you're really angry, like for example, I think towards the beginning somewhere you mentioned, Anshuman, that you were started observing how you were not being able to keep calm when you were during the course of these many calls. And perhaps just being able to express that whatever that anger was, not just tuning it down or toning it down, because what is not expressed get repressed, and there are chances that it may become a volcano to erupt at a very unwelcome time, and we do not want that. All emotions need a safe container, need a safe space to be expressed. And one of the ways of expressing yourself in a safe container is by using movement therapy. And so this is one exercise that one can do to shake off your anger, if you will. Just wanted to share it with everyone as a quick tip if anyone is interested in trying this out. And when you're perhaps feeling a little sad and dejected, you can try and see if you can swing your body, swing and sway, which is this kind of a movement. Just see if you can do that. That basically shifts the way we are thinking, shifts the emotions in the body. Again, like I said, emotion is energy in motion. When you're moving in a particular manner, your thought process also gets shifted. So there are many such exercises, many such activities one could do, but obviously purely for the lack of time, I will not be able to demonstrate or go into further details. But just to give an idea of the whole realm of what movement therapy can actually do for all of us.
Yeah, certainly. I'm glad that you brought in, because there was a question from Ashok which was similar, which you
Mhm.
have answered. So Ashok, there you go. That's the answer that you would have
Yes. I think it
otherwise
can it
got.
can definitely be a part of your daily life. Like, if you can bring in that awareness every day for 10 minutes, even like Anshuman in the beginning said, dance is purely for generating, entertainment, happiness, calm. Do it if that is what you feel like. On certain days you may not feel like, happy, or you may not feel happy to move in a certain way. But if you actually make it a practice, like put on a certain kind of music, and the key here is put a music that you feel like on that day at that given point in time. So if today I'm feeling very high vibrational, very high, high energy, I will put on something which is much more in that sphere. But tomorrow I may feel a little down, I may feel a little mellow, and I may just put on a very softer, soothing music and just see how you can move to it. Even if you just allow the music to move you and see what happens. And the after moving, see if you can actually sit down and journal your thoughts. If you can actually start using this as a practice, this can become a mindful meditation practice as well. Movement with meditation, mindful movement meditation, this could be something that we can all practice on a daily basis, and something that I do myself. And I know the larger implications it can actually have on a prolonged period of time if we were to continue to doing this.
Thank you, Maya. Uh, I will certainly try, and I'm sure
Absolutely. I would love to hear your experience to that. And yes, this does not require anybody to know how to dance. Even if you have three
which
three
is
left feet,
comfortable.
that's perfectly fine. And just to share this with you, we have somebody in the dance therapy, fraternity, who actually runs a company named Three Left Feet. So just so you know.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
We are up on time, and I am a quality professional to the
Yes.
core, so I would like to start and end on time, respecting your time and the audience time as well. One quick reminder, two quick reminders, of course. One is, of course, I'm sure audience and those who will watch this later as a recording may have more questions for Maya and Shika. So please check out their profiles on LinkedIn, and follow them. They are more than happy to answer your questions, and of course they are also professionals in the same space. So in case you are working in a company or a setup or an organization who needs their services, please reach out to them. And if you can't reach out to me, I will connect. Right. So that will be easier as well for some of you who know me. With that, I'll bring this show to end. One last one, like I said, two reminders. The other one is, of course, I always end the show with usually the next show reminder. So next week, same time, Saturday, that is 13th, 11 a.m. I'll be bringing Udit Goenka, who's a founder and entrepreneur of uh, two major companies now, and is a poster boy for startups, because he's not taken any investment. He doesn't have investment, but has already brought in about $20 million and more as revenue. So if you want to know about a fantastic entrepreneurial startup journey, how you can bootstrap and manage your startup, tune in next week, same time, 11 a.m., 13th of August. With that, I'll let everybody go. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Take care.